How's it going, guys? So I'm back here with a little reaction to a video on Athlean-X with Jeff Cavaliere, of course. And the man is finally, finally talking about machines in the gym. Machines. Now, this is a little bit of an odd video. Also, like the name of the video is a little bit inaccurate. So without further ado, why don't we just get right into it? And I'll show you right here. Let me bring it here up on screen.
And the Korea team is
jump to a commercial.
here to review results.
Let's just
결과가 좋아 보이네요. 감사합니다.
To have that.
All right, so let's go to the beginning. So, Jeff talks a little bit here in the beginning.
Whether or not they're worth your time or really just worth holding your dirty gym towel. Well, today I'm going to help you to decide which ones are the best and which ones you could pretty much throw in the trash. We're going to rank them from worst to best. Let's get going. We got a lot to cover.
So if anyone doesn't know already, Jeff Cavaliere, what he does is he'll usually rank exercise on this channel: chest exercises, bicep exercises, shoulders. He's done pretty much everything. And, the videos, they're entertaining. Everybody likes lists. I love a good list. But, some of them, he's thrown a lot of exercises to the wayside. And a lot of times it is not warranted at all. There's good exercises that get the backhand. And he leaves out machines a lot. And I'm going to talk about him in some other videos. But it's kind of funny that this video came out 2 days ago, because I actually have some videos that I need to edit up that are already in the can. But they're about Jeff Cavaliere to a certain extent, and you'll see eventually what I'm going to say, and some of it may repeat what's being said here in this video. So gym exercises ranked best to worst. So it's mostly about stuff you'd find in the gym, because a lot of stuff with Jeff Cavaliere, it's not always things that you'd see a lot of people doing in the gym on a day-to-day basis. He has alternate exercises, safer exercises. There's a lot of dumbbell and barbell stuff. A lot of times he's done these lists and you're going to ask yourself, like, well, where are the machines? And, well, Jeff finally, I guess he must have listened, even though a lot of times people in this comment session don't really do a lot of pushback, which is very odd. I think sometimes there's comments deleted. So let's get into this and let's see. So it says best to worst, but oddly enough, he actually ranks them from worst to best, which is usually what he does.
Now, first, it's important to point out the criteria for our rankings. First and foremost, is the exercise actually providing a benefit? Does it provide something unique or an advantage that's better than what you're currently doing, let's say with free weights? Because if it does, it's going to rank higher. Secondly, is it biomechanically safe? In other words, does the exercise accommodate most people and most people's body types? If it's instead trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, which is your body, then it's likely not going to rank high on this list. And of course, as always, if there are opportunities here to educate you on to how to make some of these exercises just a little bit better with some small tweaks, I'm going to take advantage and do that for you too. So with that said, let's get to the first and the worst category.
So basically what Jeff does here, like on the channel and in general, he is a physical therapist. The man is qualified, but a lot of times there's been other people, like, other medical professionals that have said that certain things that he has said are not always agreed upon. There's once in a while people in comments that said that their physical therapists like agree with what he said, but sometimes certain things that he says that are dangerous are not that dangerous, and it's really odd.
Now, when it comes to hamstring training, there's a lot of different machines. Actually, a lot of different hamstring curl machines.
So let's see.
But I'm going to make your job a lot easier because I'm going to help to eliminate one of them from your options. And that's the lying hamstring curl, which is probably the most popular. The issue I have with this machine is, as a physical therapist.
Guys. Okay, I think we all know, well, not everybody, because, I'm sure there's a lot of beginners on here. Some people are not knowledgeable just watching this channel. The lying hamstring curl, or the prone hamstring curl, the leg curl, whatever you want to call it. This is the worst. According to Jeff, This is the worst machine in the whole fucking gym. What the fuck?
I believe it leads to the most low back issues when you perform it, because you're performing it from this hip.
Guys, I have lower back pain. I had scoliosis surgery. I have 2 metal rods in my back. I can tell you for certain that this fucking exercise has never hurt my lower back.
Flexed position. And what happens here is as you're trying to move the weight, especially as they get heavier and heavier, you're going to drive your knees or thighs down into the pad, further promoting isometric hip flexion, which is going to pull on your low back and often.
Okay, so, you know, that's just ridiculous in every sense of the word. I mean, I've never in all my years heard someone say that this is a dangerous exercise.
Times lead to that low back pain I talked about. With so many better options available, I say let's pass on this and instead give it the Big Red X as the first and the worst in our gym machine rankings. Now, if these rankings were based on Instagram popularity, this next exercise would actually be the runaway winner, but it's not. It's based on effectiveness. And for that reason, it's going to also go down here in the bottom of the list, and we're talking about the good girl, bad girl exercises. Now, I don't have to go into the science of how these exercises actually got their name, Jesse, but we do want to talk about the science of how we're trying to build muscle when we do these exercises. And for me, if anybody tells you they're trying to build their glute max, then they're focusing on the wrong exercise, and they simply don't understand the function of this one, because this is actually targeting abduction, which is more of a glute
sort of like an
medius
overrated
function.
exercise.
Now, even that's not really that great because you're not performing
it
it correctly if you're sitting down and limiting your range of motion. Instead, what you should be doing is propping yourself up like this, turning your foot out to get some hip external rotation, and then keeping that posteriorly rotated, hip elevated position throughout the exercise. And when it comes to the good girl exercise, there's just so many better ways to train the adductors that are far more functional. And it starts with putting you on your feet and doing something like a slide board lunge. The fact is, being on your feet is always going to train your hips more functionally in the frontal plane. So sitting on your ass like this is not going to be my favorite choice. And therefore, good or bad, boy or girl, this is going to get the second
just
Big Red
because
X
you never seen anybody do something.
Next, we have a machine that may not be in everyone's gym, but it's in enough of them to have me raise the red flag and get you to focus on something else. And it's the side lateral machine. Now,
what? Let me tell you something. This is such a rare machine, and it is so good.
The idea here is there's only one small thing wrong, but that small thing, to me, is really big because it messes with the biomechanics of the exercise. And we're talking about the fixed hand placement, not allowing for external rotation at the shoulder. I tell you all the time, we're not pouring pitchers when we do the lateral raise with dumbbells.
But that's how you should do a fucking lateral raise.
And even though this helps you get to a more neutral grip, I'd rather see that thumb end higher than the pinky to give you enough clearance in the shoulder to prevent any shoulder pain that could come from using the exercise. I think you can skip this one.
Nobody has ever gotten shoulder pain doing fucking lateral raises. Side lateral raises. Has anybody, show of hands, anybody ever gotten shoulder pain? No, they haven't. Ever. Never. Ever. And they never probably will. Maybe some people really fucked up shoulders, maybe recovering from a rotator cuff injury, which my dad actually had, and he does side lateral raises. And guess what? No shoulder pain. Big fucking surprise there. Holy shit, this is an awesome, rare machine. If your gym has it, my gym, you know, that I don't belong to anymore, the first gym ever actually that I joined, which was actually Global Fitness Center, GFC.
This one, guys, there's so many better options. This ain't one of them. So for me, it's going to get another Big Red X. Now, if there's one exercise that's blown more biceps than a deadlift, then it's the preacher.
He actually put a really, really good sturdy version of a lateral raise in the worst category.
Curl, especially when the machine is designed like this. You see, the preacher curl puts your bicep in a very vulnerable position when the pad is angled pretty flat like this, because the elbow becomes the fulcrum and the overload can quickly surpass what you're capable of lifting. In that case, you've also got a seat there inviting you to sit, only making that situation worse. So instead, either ditch the exercise or find one that allows you to do this. Stand up and lean with your elbows into a downward sloping pad. What this does is it changes the entire mechanics of the exercise, allowing me to drive my triceps or my elbows into the back of the pad, creating some additional assistance from the lats that will help to stabilize the exercise even with heavy loads, give me all the benefits I'm looking for, but without the risk. But for now, if you got a machine like this, I say skip it and instead put another big red X in the preacher curl. Now I've gone on record.
You know, so I'm going to tell you something. I don't really like preacher curls. I have 17-inch arms when flexed, 15 when not. And I got to tell you something. I have never really found that was a movement that I liked, but I would not say it's a dangerous movement. I've never had any bicep discomfort whatsoever using a seated preacher curl that's machine-like that. Maybe if you did it with, you know, a dumbbell or you did it with a barbell, I could see it, but the machine?
Once or 100 times about being an anti-fly guy. But the fact of the matter is, as a physical therapist, it's just not the best thing you can do to your anterior shoulder capsule. Now, what would I say about a chest fly machine? Well, ironically, it may not be the worst thing that you can do, but it's definitely not the right thing for everybody. You can see Jesse doing the exercise here and note that it does have stops at the bottom range of motion, preventing excessive abduction of the arms away from the body.
See his machine right here?
That being said,
my dad, torn rotator cuff, recovered, uses this machine, he's fine.
Not everybody's going to have that safety net, because if you have a bigger body,
it's a
bigger chest, more of a barrel chest, you're going to have more depth, range of motion, and not find the support that Jesse's finding here, which would make the exercise no better than the unsupported version that we do on a bench. And therefore, it's not the worst thing if it fits your body type, but it still deserves that Run X, just maybe a little bit smaller than the others. And so with the worst of the worst out of the way, I now get to break out my blue marker as I move into the better category. Not perfect, but definitely better. And when we talk about the hamstring curl variations, we have something that's definitely better. We're talking about the standing hamstring curl. Now, first of all, I get to put you on your feet. And even though the working leg is in the air, it's the benefit to the stance leg that provides additional functional carryover. That being said, I can also help to discourage some of that hip flexor involvement that we had in the lying down version, and that's why we're going to give the standing hamstring curl the first in the better category with our big blue circle.
It's standing.
Next up in the better category, we have a row machine. And the reason why this is not higher is because actually the arms are not higher.
This is a pretty good machine.
Find one like a hammer pull-down machine that starts and stops with your arms in a much higher position. Here you're going to get a better stretch on the lats, and what also happens is you don't get that almost caving that's promoted by this variation of the machine. It sort of drives you down and in, or your shoulders wrapped around the pad, giving your chest very little opportunity to stand proud and allowing you to get a good lat contraction. So when it comes to this row, it's certainly not a no, but it's not the best endorsement. So for me, it's just going to get a modest blue circle, knowing that there's better row variations ahead. Next up is a machine that I don't see as often today as I used to. However, we know this guy's got a little bit of social influence, so likely the more he posts himself using it, more gyms are likely to start stocking it. We're talking about the seated tricep dip. It's actually a good machine, one that's good for replacing the bench dip bodyweight version of the exercise. And I actually love that version of the exercise, but all too often, as I pointed out many times, people can do it and put their shoulders in a very compromised position. The bench dip machine actually prevents that. However, if you have access to this machine, this is slightly different biomechanically. It's basically putting your arms back into extension more than what was happening with the first version. You can see here the difference side by side. In Sam's version, his arms are out in front of his body in the contracted position, and here in Jesse's version, he's actually getting into that neutral or slightly extended position, which is going to more effectively target the long head. Each way, though, these machines actually are somewhat of an improvement over the bodyweight version of the dip, and therefore could be a good addition to your routine. So the seated tricep dip will get another of the blue circles in the better category. And again, Jesse's version might bump it up one notch to even better still. Next up, we have an exercise that proves once again that popularity doesn't always equal best. And we're talking about a popular leg exercise machine, perhaps no more than the leg press. The problem here with the leg press is it has its limitations. First and foremost, don't be fooled by the amount of plates that you can stack on the ends of this machine. Because a lot of times you're just what I call leaning on your ligaments, or in some cases just shortening your range of motion so badly that you're being fooled into thinking that you're performing more work than you are. On top of that, even the biomechanics of the exercise are not very good. If you were to take the position your body's in at the bottom of that leg press and simply rotate yourself to a, quote, standing position like you would be in a squat, it doesn't look like a very good squat, does it? On top of that, people use the machine oftentimes for glute development, not realizing that you don't even come close to full hip extension and therefore not good glute activation by doing the exercise. So while it's popular and while it does give you some benefits and doesn't belong in the worst category, it simply is not that great, and therefore it's just going to get a modest blue circle. And the
thing is, it's like that's a movement right there that professional bodybuilders use to achieve, very aesthetically pleasing legs and quads. So to knock that, if you do it and you really like go very low on the eccentric, you'll get benefits from it.
Better category. And so we wrap up our better category with a machine that definitely needs to at least earn some points for its versatility, considering the fact that you can do bench press, shoulder press, squats, rows,
machine is good.
shrugs, and a whole host of other exercises on it. And we're talking about the Smith machine. Now, I've gone over the issues with the Smith machine before, particularly as it pertains to people using it for squats. You see, a lot of people like to do this exercise, in particular this way, leaning back against the bar, but it instantly disqualifies normal biomechanics in the process. In other words, when you squat,
you get the point,
each one's going to have slight variations. This one in particular I like because you can see the arms actually start to approximate or come closer to each other as you press up overhead. And this is good because it gives you some of that joint stacking of the wrist over the elbow, over the shoulder, that makes the exercise more comfortable for those that have shoulder issues. Which gets even better when you take advantage of the alternate grip that places your hands in a more neutral position that makes that joint stacking even easier at the top. That being said, I don't like when you push yourself back into the pad. So even though the pad is there for you, ideally it's best if you could just slide yourself an inch or two away from it.
I would not recommend doing that.
Your shoulder blades by pushing them back into the pad while you press up. That said, there are better versions of shoulder press machines.
So wait a minute. So he's concerned about safety, but he's actually telling people to sit forward and do that. Like I'm telling you, that's going to make people arch their back even more. Horrible advice. Just fucking horrible advice.
That we're going to get to later, but for now, let's put the first of the yellow circles around the shoulder press in the better still category. Next up, we get an exercise that actually matches popularity with its utility and function, and we're talking about the pec deck, and it belongs in the better still category because number one, it's versatile. So we obviously know it as the chest exercise, but we can turn it into the rear delt exercise, which none of us do enough work for, or also the single-sided rear delt exercise, which again, none of us do enough work for. So it has its benefits. On top of that, though, when you get in the machine, make sure you're doing it the right way. Don't reach all the way back behind you, which could compromise your shoulder health. Instead, rotate your body to grab one handle at a time, and on dismount, do the same exact thing in reverse, maintaining the health of the exercise and allowing us to put a yellow circle around it in the better still category. Next up in the better still category is a slight improvement on that seated row machine. This time it's something we call the humbler. It actually gets its name from the fact that you're not going to use a lot of weight here, but you are going to overload your back in a safe way because it's a chest supported row variation. If you have any low back issues and it sort of hums on you when you're trying to do a barbell row, this would be a good alternative. The one key difference here of why it gets a slight leg up and earn its better still ranking for back row variations. So when gym owners decide what machines to put in their gym, at the very top of the list almost always is a chest machine, or two, or three. But you know what? They're actually really good. And it doesn't matter whether it's a chest press or an incline press, there's some unique benefits here. The first and foremost, you don't have to be afraid to fail. If you're doing a barbell bench press with free weights, you're going to have to consider whether or not you have to go lighter, stop short of failure, or make sure you have a good spotter. The second benefit is the machines actually promote proper alignment of the arms during the bench press. We know that the elbow should be tucked around 45 or 60 degrees, but it's a little bit hard to judge or get that.
I would greatly advise everybody to pick a machine press and do a free weight version. Use an Olympic bar, use a Smith machine. I would not just say just do the chest machines.
Right when we're doing a free weight version of the exercise. But here, because of the angled handles, your elbows will actually naturally find that proper position and therefore give you a healthier, safer press. I have no problems with bench press machines, and almost every single time I find myself in a gym on vacation, I always look for one just to give me something new. This is why they're going to fall into the better still category, whatever variation you try. There's no denying that the hack squat has its place when it comes to machine training. That being said, the reverse hack squat isn't my favorite version of it. You see, when you invert your body like this, it allows for more effective targeting of the glutes because you get that more lean forward position of the body. However,
the hack squat is right next to it. That's the hack squat right here.
It falls into the same category as the leg press, where you really never get back into that hip extension to fully contract the glutes or train them to their best. For that reason, though I like the hack squat and we'll find a better version of it later, the reverse one is better still option, and therefore it's going to stay right here where it is. So despite my personal rocky relationship with this next exercise, it's not going to sway me from giving you the right recommendation when it comes to where you should rank this machine. And we're talking about the leg extension. You see, if you're looking for an exercise that can create hypertrophy in your quads in a more isolated or targeted way, the leg extension machine provides you that opportunity. However, it's not meant for every person. For instance, the compression forces at the top of every single repetition.
Nobody is even calling Jeff out on this in the comments. This guy preached against leg extensions for years, since like 2015.
Lastly, number 5, leg extensions, or leg extinctions as I like to call them. Guys, these belong in the iron graveyard. There's so many better ways, there's so many more functional ways to strengthen our quads and legs than these guys. So many reasons why. We have a shearing force that gets placed on our knees. We have constant tension on our ACL ligament. Not a good idea. We have an imbalance of the activation between our VMO and our rectus femoris.
He has preached and put them in the iron graveyard, I believe. Whatever it was, he said that this was a bad exercise. He didn't like the pad on the legs. He didn't like, what it does to the knees. And now he's changed his opinion, finally realizing that this is not a dangerous exercise.
Could become problematic for someone that has patellar tracking dysfunction or patellar femoral syndrome. That's going to cause some pain and discomfort just doing the exercise. Secondly, if you have patellar tendonitis or quadricep tendonitis, you're certainly not going to have a great time doing the exercise. Why? Because in an inflamed state, a tendon actually has 1/5 the capacity to handle the weight that it normally can. And likely, if you're trying to create hypertrophy or growth in the quads, you're probably using some pretty heavy weights to do that. Now, you could use this exercise in a more rehabilitative sense and actually accommodate those tendons to stress, but you're going to have to be prepared to back the weights way down and start working your way back up from the ground up. So I'm not saying it's not a great exercise, it's just not a great exercise for everybody, and for that reason,
you said in the past it was bad for everyone.
Here as a better still option.
Holy shit, now he's
no
mention of saying I'm wrong or anything like that.
I now move up into the almost best category. And to lead off this category, I have one of my favorite machines. It's one I actually have here in my gym, and it's the functional trainer. And if we want to talk about versatility, this is the king. Because you're able to do things like curls, tricep pushdowns, my favorite face pulls, maybe even a side lateral raise. The one limitation here is that it's not a great option for leg exercises because you're simply not going to be able to load the leg exercises up enough to make it worth your time. However, you do need some level of experience when you're going to use this machine because the freedom of movement of these arms allows you to basically
it is like a machine, but it's not really what I would say like using a machine.
If you're not really familiar with how to manipulate these arms in space to get the right exercise effect, the main advantage of this versus the other two that I shared with you so far is the fact that you're on your feet. I always say if you want to look like an athlete, you got to train like an athlete. Being on your feet is more athletic than sitting on your ass. And for me,
the only thing that I never get with Jeff is like, who is training to be an athlete? Most of the people here are not athletes. They're like just looking to work out, and you're giving them this advice. You gotta be on your feet. Don't sit down. Don't sit down for 2 minutes and do an exercise that's beneficial. If you sit down, that's it. So what's up next?
Like this next exercise does. And this is the seated cable row. And the reason why I love it is it actually reinforces the #1 requirement for an effective back exercise, and that is the ability to move your chest or sternum forward.
Not done correctly gives you lower back pain, not the lying hamstring curl. I still do this movement and love it, but yeah, sometimes they show you can row this way.
Depending upon where we carry our elbows during the exercise, and it gets even better. Keep them nice and tight and low, you're going to work more of the lats. Keep them up high and wide, you're going to work more of the upper back thickness. The idea is the seated cable row is my favorite row, and it belongs up here in the almost best category. When it comes to leg machines designed to more effectively target the quads, for me, there's none better than the hack squat. Now, the nice thing about this is it actually gives you an alternative.
How did he do this and not realize that he called the V squat the hack squat.
To the front squat. And we know that the front squat does a good job of targeting the quads, but it's not the most comfortable for many, especially if you lack wrist mobility. The hack squat takes care of that by maintaining a perfectly upright torso throughout the exercise.
Movement.
Now, the big difference between this and that sort of manipulated squat done on the Smith machine is the foot biomechanics are much better here because of the tilted foot. Is because these exercise machines either provide a unique advantage that actually we don't get unless we use these machines, or they're allowing us to do these exercises in an even safer way for more and more people to be able to do them. And for me, the first one here is going to be the belt squat. And the reason for that is it allows everybody to experience the benefits of the king of all exercises,
I'm not
the squat.
really a big fan.
You see, with the belt squat, but for me, the one that belongs at the very top of the list is the seated hamstring curl. And the big difference here, as you can imagine, is we're decreasing the involvement of those hip flexors, allowing us to focus on that knee flexion component of the hamstring. That's not entirely true,
because if you don't put the seat just right and lay against it a certain way, you can get a lot of lower back pain. I've sat, incorrectly on there before, and you'll feel a little bit of it. So lying hamstring curl all the way back at the beginning, and in the best is the seated version. I'm telling you guys, this is the best version, I agree, but it's not like, oh my God, it's so much better. No, sorry, that's just an exaggeration of the highest order.
Without having to have those hip flexors start to warp our low back. A nice built-in function here is you could take yourself not just to failure, but nicely through some partial repetitions, and also in a sort of 2-to-1 eccentric overload fashion too, by simply dropping down with 2 legs and then rising up with just 1. There's just a lot of versatility built in here, but most of all, it's the safety that I like about this variation. So it's going to get another one of those jagged green stars that just does what it does really good. In other words, if you want to do heavy calf raises, you're going to have to load up that bar. And rather than trying to perform it in a freestanding rack with some plates under your ankles, this just puts you in the perfect position to do this and to horizontal position. If you want to target more of your lower chest, then go from a high to low crossover. If you want to target more of your upper chest, then go from a low to high to train your back.
Pull down. Love this exercise.
See, when I'm looking for vertical lat exercises, this machine is the one that makes it most accessible to every single person. Yeah, the pull-up is an amazing way to do this, but
everybody should have. I do both of these.
It's not as accessible because a lot of people have a hard time doing the pull-up. But if I sit down in a lat pull-down machine, I could do that vertical lat training in a scalable manner by simply changing the place where I put the pin. Add to that fact that I could actually change the focus of my back training by simply changing the width that I'm grabbing the bar with, or actually change out the bar itself. It just becomes a very versatile reverse hyper. You see, a lot of us will actually use the hyperextension machine, but the issue with that is that you're training your back in a top-down approach, moving your torso backwards towards an extended hip. What I'd rather see you do is fix your torso in place like you do with this machine, and then extend your hip backwards. Because what this will do is it will drive that low back strengthening through the glutes first, as it should be. You see, the low back is not designed to be the main provider of strength and stability to your torso. It's also the reason why there's some of the largest muscles in your body, providing you with great real estate and opportunity to hold our legs. They don't do a great job of providing resistance in that fully extended hip position like the hip thrust machine does. I mean, even a squat doesn't provide resistance when that hip is fully extended at the top. However, the one difference between this and the barbell variation of the exercise is it's just a R from best to worst.
So
I've made that video.
I don't know, guys. This was a weird ass fucking video and list. A weird ass fucking video and list, to say the fucking least. I mean, everything was all over the place. The reasoning. Jeff now all of a sudden loves leg extensions after nearly going to war with them for 10 years. Now he loves them. Now he wants to give them a big old kiss. Leg extensions. Beautiful. Wonderful. And there was never any reason to fear. My dad, who has bad knees, he's been told not to squat, not to do the leg press. And guess what? Guess what the doctor fucking told him he could do? He could do leg extensions. He could do leg extensions. Putting the prone leg curl, the lying hamstring curl, like in the worst, like, I don't know what that was about. I don't know, like, show us, Jeff, where the lying hamstring curl touched you, because I don't know why you're hating on that shit so horribly. I never in my life have I ever seen anyone getting so upset over an exercise that is so popular, so widely used, and yielded results for so many. So there you go, guys. That's my reaction. This video's been pretty long, but I hope you all enjoyed. That's Athlean-X video. That's Jeff Cavaliere's opinion. There's my opinions. You know, take them for what they're worth. And guys, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. And I'll see you next time.